Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome to today's broadcast of Connecting the Dots, where we break down tech news and its everyday impact. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan. We are coming to you live from Snarful Solutions Group right here in Sacramento, California.
Yeah, we are. And today is Thursday, April 23, 2026. We are absolutely thrilled you're joining us today.
So thrilled. And, before we get into the really heavy hitters of today's tech landscape, let's take a quick look outside.
Yeah, if you're here in Sacramento with us, you are in luck. It is gorgeous out there. We're looking at a very sunny 72 degrees with just a light 7-mile-per-hour breeze.
Oh, it's pretty much the definition of a perfect California spring day. But for those of you tuning in from outside our local bubble, the national picture is definitely a bit more turbulent today.
Yeah, and it really is.
Right now, there are actually 398 active U.S. weather alerts, and 219 of those are over land. So if you're traveling today or, you've got family on the road, please do yourself a favor and check weather.gov to stay ahead of any local hazards.
Definitely stay safe out there. Shifting gears over to the financial markets. Yesterday brought some genuinely solid, upbeat numbers across the board for anyone who's, watching their portfolios.
Always nice to see green on the screen.
Right. The Dow Jones had a really robust day. It closed up 218.53 points to land at 49,490.03.
And the broader market basically followed that exact trend. The S&P 500 climbed as well, adding 34.99 points to close at $7,137.90.
It's always encouraging to see that kind of steady, broad-based momentum for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Although, looking at the crypto space, Bitcoin did see a slight daily dip. It dropped about 478.8, bringing it down to 77,714.18.
Which sounds like a lot, but keep the broader picture in mind here. Even with that daily cool-off, Bitcoin is still up nearly 2,000 points for the week.
Yeah, the momentum is fiercely intact. It's just a brief pause in what's been, honestly, a massive upward trajectory.
Exactly. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Strong Coffee, the premium instant coffee that tastes like a traditional brew, but is packed with 15 grams of protein, MCPs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha. Get clean, sustained energy without the jitters. Use promo code SNARFUL for 20% off at strongcoffeecompany.com.
All right, so jumping into the news.
Yeah, let's unpack this. We are starting today with what might be the most aggressive corporate chess move we've seen all year.
Oh, without a doubt.
We're looking at this incredibly high-stakes standoff for the future of how software is actually written. It involves Microsoft, an AI coding startup called Cursor, and Elon Musk's SpaceX.
And the sheer speed at which this deal materialized is just staggering. I mean, Microsoft was recently looking into buying Cursor, right? They spent time evaluating the landscape, weighing their options, and then ultimately decided to pass.
Right, they walked away.
Exactly. And before the market even really had time to process Microsoft stepping away, SpaceX just swooped in. They came with this massive agreement to acquire Cursor for $60 billion by the end of the year. Or, alternatively, pay $10 billion just for a partnership.
Wait, we really need to contextualize that $60 billion figure for a second. Because earlier this month, VC firms had valued Cursor at $50 billion.
Yeah, a clean $50 billion.
So Musk isn't just buying a company here. He's paying a massive $10 billion premium. It's essentially a 20% line jumping fee just to lock competitors out.
Which is wild money, even in tech. But to understand why these astronomical numbers are just flying around, we kind of need to understand the mechanism behind what Cursor actually does.
Right, because it's far more than just a smart autocomplete feature.
Oh, it entirely changes the workflow. Think of writing code like writing a really complex novel. A traditional spell checker, fixes typos as you type. That's the old technology.
So what's Cursor then?
Cursor is more like having an elite editor, like a hyper-smart Copilot.
Oh, like Chewbacca to Han Solo.
Yes, exactly like Chewbacca. It sits right there with you, reads your first paragraph, realizes you're writing this complex sci-fi thriller, and just instantly generates the next 3 chapters. And the plot twists are already built in, perfectly formatted.
Wow.
It actually anticipates the architecture of what you're trying to build. That distinction is so critical. It doesn't just guess the next word, it understands the entire structural integrity of the application.
So for anyone listening who, uses a smartphone or shops online or just works on a computer every day, this means the software you rely on gets updated exponentially faster.
Major bugs get fixed overnight. The sheer speed of digital creation has fundamentally changed.
Okay, but hold on. I'm stuck on this Microsoft angle. I have to push back on their strategy here because Microsoft already dominates this space, right?
They do, yeah.
They own GitHub Copilot, and their CEO just proudly announced they hit 4.7 million paying subscribers, which is a massive 75% year-over-year jump.
It's huge growth.
So why are they even kicking the tires on a startup that demands a $60 billion buyout?
Yeah.
Was this just Microsoft experiencing tech FOMO? Or is Copilot's underlying technology actually falling behind?
Well, see, Microsoft is playing a very sophisticated defensive game here. When you have nearly 5 million paying subscribers, part of your job is constant surveillance of the horizon to see who might dethrone you.
Right, you gotta watch your back.
Exactly. And Cursor has become the absolute darling of elite developers recently, largely because of an AI model they use called Composer. Microsoft likely looked under the hood, realized Cursor's approach was genuinely exceptional, but then they just balked at that massive premium valuation.
I mean, they figured they already had the market share.
Right. And they're already pouring tens of billions into their partnership with OpenAI. From a corporate strategy standpoint, they decided to double down on their own ecosystem rather than spend $60 billion to buy a redundancy.
Which opens the door wide open for SpaceX. And the reality is, Cursor desperately needed SpaceX to walk through that door.
Oh, they absolutely did.
Because, in their own words, they are bottlenecked by compute. They have the brilliant software, they have the beloved interface, but they lack the sheer physical computing horsepower to train their next generation of AI.
And SpaceX, having merged with Musk's AI company XAI back in February, just happens to be building the Colossus supercomputer.
Right. So SpaceX essentially wooed Cursor by handing them the keys to this massive computing infrastructure in the weeks leading up to the deal.
It's the ultimate marriage of convenience and ambition. Cursor gets the raw computing power they need to survive against giants like Microsoft, and SpaceX gets a world-class software tool to integrate into their growing empire.
But here's the catch with Cursor being bottlenecked by compute. Even if SpaceX gives them unlimited access to the Colossus supercomputer, raw horsepower alone isn't enough to beat the market leaders.
Yeah, no, it's really not.
You need the actual foundational intelligence to run on it, which explains exactly why Musk's next phone call was to France. Moving on to our next story, XAI is actively holding talks with the French AI powerhouse Mistral, which, by the way, is currently valued at 11.6 billion euros. The goal is to form a massive three-way partnership between XAI, Mistral, and Cursor.
And this is where the landscape starts to look like a corporate version of Game of Thrones. Musk is actively assembling these alliances because his team openly admits that XAI is playing catch-up.
Yeah, companies like OpenAI and Anthropic have a pretty significant lead right now.
A huge lead. Anthropic's Claude AI is so dominant right now that Anthropic actually blocked XAI from accessing its models through Cursor earlier this year. It is a fiercely competitive environment.
It's like Musk is trying to assemble the Avengers of AI to take down the established US labs.
That's exactly what he's doing.
And to do that, you need two fundamental things: hardware and human genius. On the hardware front, XAI is scaling its infrastructure at a pace that is frankly hard to comprehend. Last year, they had about 200,000 NVIDIA GPUs. Now, they are scaling up to 1 million GPUs.
And the physical reality of operating 1 million GPUs is just staggering. We are talking about data centers that require the power output of a small city just to keep the chips from melting.
Wow.
I mean, the logistics of the cooling pipes alone are an engineering marvel.
I'm genuinely skeptical that 1 million GPUs is a silver bullet, though.
Yeah.
Like, if your algorithms are inefficient, aren't you just processing bad math faster?
Basically, yes.
Does throwing 1 million GPUs at the problem actually solve the fact that XAI's leadership admits they are clearly behind? Or is talent the real missing piece here?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Hardware without brilliant human direction is just an incredibly expensive space heater.
Right.
You absolutely need the human talent to design the algorithms that make efficient use of those million GPUs, which is exactly why XAI just poached Devendra Chaplot. He was a crucial member of Mistral's founding team, and XAI brought him on to lead their pre-training.
Let's break down that term real quick, pre-training. When we talk about pre-training in AI, we are essentially talking about giving it a foundational high school education.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. Before an AI goes to college to learn a specific job, like how to write Python code or analyze legal documents, it needs to fundamentally understand logic, language, reasoning, and pattern recognition.
And the European approach to this education, particularly at Mistral, has been fascinating. While many Silicon Valley labs rely on brute forcing the problem with massive power-hungry models, Mistral has focused heavily on algorithmic efficiency.
So doing more with less.
Exactly. They have proven they can get massive performance out of smaller, highly optimized models.
So by poaching Chaplot and looking to partner with Mistral and Cursor, XAI gets the highly efficient European algorithms, the top-tier developer interface, and combines it with their own massive Colossus supercomputer.
It is a brilliant strategy for vertical integration. If this three-way alliance holds, they create a vertically integrated competitor that could actually challenge OpenAI's dominance.
Which is great for us, really.
Oh, 100%. Heavy competition in this space ensures that no single company gets to monopolize the digital tools we rely on daily. It drives prices down and forces companies to innovate faster to win your trust.
So let's explore this physical hardware side a bit more. We keep talking about software hitting a physical wall. To power 1 million GPUs, you need the actual physical silicon chips.
You do.
All of those ambitious plans, from Cursor's coding assistants to Mistral's advanced algorithms, they run straight into a global supply chain bottleneck. Which leads us perfectly to our final story.
Yeah, this is a big one.
TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, is aggressively expanding its capabilities right here in the U.S.
Yeah.
They're actually building an advanced chip packaging plant in Arizona that is slated to open by 2029.
And this represents a massive, massive shift in how the global tech industry operates. Currently, we have the capability to manufacture these incredibly advanced raw chips on U.S. soil. But once that chip is printed, it isn't ready to be plugged into a computer or a server. It has to go through a highly complex process called packaging. And right now, the vast majority of that advanced packaging happens thousands of miles away in Taiwan.
The word packaging is so deceptive. It makes it sound like we are putting chips in cardboard boxes with bubble wrap.
Right, like shipping a mug.
Yeah. But it is infinitely more complex than that. Think about how chips used to be arranged on a motherboard, spread out side by side like a sprawling suburb.
Okay.
The data had to travel across relatively long physical distances to communicate, which creates excess heat and consumes massive amounts of power. The advanced packaging TSMC uses, specifically technologies called CoWoS and 3D IC, changes that geography entirely.
Yeah, instead of a sprawling suburb, they essentially stack the chips vertically, like building a microscopic skyscraper.
And by stacking the chips vertically, you physically shorten the distance the data has to travel from miles down to mere millimeters.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. And this drastically reduces heat and power consumption, which happens to be the exact physical bottleneck stopping AI from scaling to that 1 million GPU mark right now. The heat is the enemy here.
It really is. And because that specific, highly complex vertical stacking process primarily happens in Taiwan, it creates a massive, vulnerable supply chain bottleneck.
Right, because of all the shipping.
Exactly.
Right.
We are building the raw chips in Arizona, putting them on ships to cross the Pacific Ocean to Taiwan just to be stacked, and then shipping them all the way back to the U.S. to be put into our local servers.
It's a logistical nightmare.
It is. So TSMC is trying to solve this by building the new packaging plant right next door to their manufacturing plant in Arizona. They are also partnering with a company called Amcor to build another packaging factory by mid-2027, with production starting in early 2028.
Bringing this entire supply chain onto U.S. soil means far fewer shortages. We avoid those massive bottlenecks we saw a few years ago where you couldn't buy a car, a gaming console, or a computer because a single shipping lane was disrupted.
Oh, that was the worst.
Yeah, so localizing the supply chain leads to more stable, predictable prices for consumer electronics for all of us. But I have to voice some skepticism here when you look at the timelines.
Yeah, the timelines are definitely the friction point.
2029 seems like an absolute lifetime away in the tech world. We just discussed SpaceX swooping in to buy Cursor in a matter of days. Software moves at lightning speed.
It really does.
So will an Arizona plant opening in 2029 actually solve the immediate bottleneck of XAI needing to train its models right now? Or is this strictly a long-term geopolitical insurance policy?
Well, honestly, it is not going to solve XAI's immediate problem this year. Software moves at the speed of thought, but hardware moves at the speed of concrete and steel.
That's a great way to put it.
And this is where we are seeing the end of the traditional software-only tech boom. For the last 20 years, you could build a billion-dollar company in a dorm room with nothing but a laptop and an internet connection. Today, whoever controls the physical concrete in Arizona, the supply chains, and the cooling pipes for those data centers controls the entire digital future. 2029 feels painfully far away for a software coder, but for restructuring a global physical supply chain from scratch, it is an aggressively fast timeline.
It really highlights the fragility of the current system, doesn't it? Having end-to-end manufacturing and packaging in Arizona is a strategic necessity at this point. It is the physical foundation that the entire digital future is going to be built upon.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, a quick thanks to Old Glory, an iconic music and sports fan merch store. Perfect for the techie in your life. Use promo code SNARFL for 15% off at oldglory.com.
You know, when you look at all these moving pieces together, a very clear narrative emerges today. We are watching a fierce, high-stakes battle for your digital desktop.
Yeah, we really are.
Microsoft is actively defending its territory with GitHub Copilot, while the new alliance of SpaceX, Mistral, and Cursor is attempting to build a massive, vertically integrated challenger.
But none of that digital magic, not the AI coding assistants, not the brilliant European algorithms, can exist without the massive physical infrastructure and supply chains being built in our own backyard.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It is the ultimate collision of the digital and the physical. Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder today. We are rapidly building AI that is designed to write its own software, and we are concurrently pouring billions into massive physical plants to assemble the hardware required to run that AI.
Right.
So how long will it be until these super intelligent AI models start designing and optimizing the very supply chains, the factory layouts, and the microscopic silicon architectures they rely on to exist?
That's the real question.
Once the AI is optimizing its own physical creation, what does the next decade even look like?
I'll tell you what, that timeline might arrive a lot sooner than 2029.
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.